This is John Bones Rodriguez, and I want to introduce you to the creators of Home Fooling. They are the directors of Freestyle Repertory Theater, and they have made a series of videos helping kids and parents learn how to play improv together now that after we're all kind of a captive audience together here during COVID. And so Laura and Mike, this is Laura Livingston and Mike Durkin, and they've been doing improv since 1983 and doing it in school since 1988. My gosh, a long time ago.
We passed dinosaurs on the way.
Right.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, amazing how good the Triceratops were. We were chatting the other day and we said that we had to tell parents why improv was so great. And since 1988, you've been teaching and performing in schools, bringing live theater to tens of thousands of students every year. And now, during the shutdown, you've created a series of videos called Home Fooling, how to teach your family to play improv games with you. As a parent, we have two small kids. It is hard to be with your kids all the time, knowing that you were kind of responsible for their education at the moment, and yet want to still make those connections because it's rare that we're going to get to be with them that often.
We started doing improvisation in 1982, and back then, nobody was doing improvisation. Actors, directors in the theater were using it as a process, but nobody was using it as a performance piece.
Back then they had a thing they called welfare hotels, where impoverished families would live in these welfare hotels. And we started going in there and doing improv and discovering that the kids loved doing it with us, and kids were really good at storytelling, and we loved making up stories with them. And then we felt very badly when we left because we would just scrape these children off of us. And we sat down as a company and we said, if we ever get the chance to work with kids, we're going to say yes. And I tell you, 2 weeks later, young audiences of New York came and saw our show and said, have you ever thought of working with kids? The secret of improvisation is working well together. We have two rules: always say yes, always make your partner look good. And educators started saying, wow, if you came in and taught that to our kids at the beginning of the school year, everything else gets so much easier. All of our class projects.
What makes Home Fooling different than, let's say, virtual classes on Zoom that other people are doing?
Home Fooling is a series of, right now it's going to get longer, but of 9 videos, and we have ideas for more of them. And you have to watch like the first 3 in order because they give you basics of improvisation. Always say yes. Always make your partner look good. And then a couple of improv games that you need to have under your belt because they're so classic, and you'll understand all the rest of improv by doing them. But each one of them is like no more than 10 minutes long, and they are designed to then turn off the computer,
right.
Turn it off, and teach that improv game to your siblings, your parents, your kids, whoever has been shut up in the house with you, the apartment with you for way too long. You've got the makings of live theater right there. You've got your scene partner, you've got your audience really in the room with you.
Really, here's all we need to say. The first rule of improv is always say yes.
Yeah.
Parents will, a full stop. That's all the parents need to hear at this moment. That somebody else will teach them to always say yes. And that is extremely valuable. Of course, the second rule, as you mentioned, is always make your partner look good. Now, for parents who have siblings, parents who have kids, multiple kids, making your partner look good is another great lesson that you'd want to learn in your family. And so taking these 2 rules, and not only to do games together and tell stories together, but it actually starts seeping into the rest of how you relate to each other.
Yeah.
I'm a parent. We have a 6-year-old and an almost 3-year-old. And my wife and I use a lot of the rules of improv, a lot of the skills that we have gained to just be with our kids, really. And they kind of understand that when we're playing a game, that it's time to play along. And it's an interesting thing because a lot of their friends, there's a big thing about siblings fighting with each other unless they're fighting with each other against the parent, right? That's when they make friends. And but knowing that is one thing, but being able to work with that energy and having actual skills to do it is a whole other thing. And so I think
that's a good point that you just made, because working with all that energy, because kids have incredible energy, just amazing energy. But it's great if you can channel that energy in a productive way or in a creative way. And for instance, the first episode, the first video of Home Fooling, it's just an explanation of the 2 rules. Always say yes, always make your partner look good. As long as you're going forward with a yes, and as long as you're taking care of each other and making your partner look good.
As a parent who is aware of all the educational content out there now, you mentioned that the thing that makes homeschooling so different is that then you're made to turn it off so that you can work together and do that. Do you mean that I'm going to suddenly learn how to be quick on my feet and make my kids laugh? Is that what you mean?
Well, you probably will all laugh together. It probably will be funny. But our aim is when we don't set out to be funny.
Okay.
We set out to be spontaneous and say or do the first thing that occurs to us and listen to the other person and agree with and add on to what they made up. That a lot of times older people try to assume a responsibility of being entertaining and being funny.
Yeah.
And we warn the kids to train your parents not to do that, just to listen and respond to each other. And pretty soon it gets funny by itself. You don't need to worry about that.
Great.
What's very important is to say yes to yourself. You can say yes to the other person, but you've got to be, it will build your confidence. It builds confidence when you keep saying yes, even to your own idea. If your own idea is
if it seems ordinary to you.
Yeah. It go with it. Go with the ordinary, and you'll be surprised if you keep saying yes and making each other look good. Where that ordinary will explode, what that ordinary will explode into.
All that people throwing out what they feel is ordinary and it being so well accepted by the people they're working with that it's extremely bonding experience. And you just mentioned having that confidence, and that's true, but having that confidence with the people who you already know are playing a game that they have to accept you is extremely freeing. And so I love to extend that to my kids and my wife. All of that is part of the skills you can learn just going to homeschooling and playing those games with your kids. So thanks so much, Mike and Laura, for being here. And
Thank you both.
My pleasure. Listen, we made this because for us, we already know about the power of improv and how it can help just your relationships in general, but it's so essential for a lot of parents and children. You only get our children for so long that they'll want to play with us. And so it occurred to us that we really ought to tell you why you might want to go to homeschooling and see some of those games that you can play together. Sure, Uno is fun, Chutes and Ladders is fun. Games like that are fun. This is a whole different thing where you are the game. Your family becomes the game you're playing. And I just can't recommend it enough, and I'm super glad that you sat down with me to make these videos to tell people why they should go to homeschooling.
And we want to thank you for being a part of it. You and your wife, Laura, and Poppy and Pike. Good to have you with us.